All right. So what's your name and what rank were you at retirement?
Tom Montgomery. I was deputy chief, or not deputy chief then. I was fire marshal.
Okay. When did you get hired? Starting over. Let's. When did you get hired when you were paid? When did you go paid?
Well, you can do the arithmetic. I was a volunteer for 15 years and paid for 22. So
I got you. So when did you start volunteering with Midlothian?
1976.
Okay. Did you have ID numbers then when you were volunteers, or they didn't do that until they started?
No, that
later
didn't
on?
start till my ID number was 11.
I got
So
you.
I was the 11th one hired.
There you go. Did you work for anybody else before Midlothian?
No.
Okay. And when did you retire?
2013.
2013. Okay.
January.
Gotcha. Did you have any military service or anything?
Mm-hmm.
What branch did you serve in?
I was in the Army for 3 years.
Okay. What'd you do in the Army?
I was an air traffic controller.
Really? I've always been interested in that. Not like I would ever want to do it, but that it's just an interesting job.
Well, I was in from 66 to 69, and I spent a year in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
When I enlisted for aviation maintenance.
Okay.
Helicopter mechanic.
Gotcha.
Got out of basic, and they sent us to AIT, which was Fort Rucker, Alabama, which is the aviation center. And like all Army schools, you're assigned to school, you go there and you wait 2 weeks.
Right.
Always 2 weeks. You're on duties, picking up cigarette butts, crap like that.
Right.
We were standing out in morning formation one day, and about 20 of us got pulled out, or they called us out. And NCOIC said, you guys have qualified for air traffic control school. Who wants to go? And air traffic control school, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
But by then we figured out, or we're told, and the information came down to us that one of the big duties for aviation mechanics is door gunners. So, everybody stepped forward.
Yeah.
Wound up in Biloxi, Mississippi at an Air Force base, which was cherry duty. Man.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was a 17-week school. It was a long school.
Yeah.
But it was pretty good duty.
Yeah.
Nobody screwed with you too much.
Yeah. For the most part. I was in the Marine Corps, and I was in the aviation wing. And I know the ATC guys, you almost never saw them. Like, they were unheard of.
Well, it depended a lot on the base, on the facility. The Marine Corps they went to a different school than the Navy, the Army did.
Right.
But it was basically the same job.
Yeah.
You worked, I want to say it was a 12-hour shift. The towers that I worked in were all dawn to dusk. They wasn't open at nights.
I got you.
We opened it up, I think, twice at the place I was stationed to get helicopters off the ground because we were getting hit.
Right.
But, they kind of stayed put.
That's not bad.
Well,
good little deal. Where did you grow up?
I was born and raised in Grayson County, which is north up by the Red River.
Yes, sir.
I graduated from high school in Waxahachie. My dad was with the phone company and got transferred to Waxahachie. Went to college for about 2.5 years at what was then called Arlington State College. Now it's University of Texas.
UTA, yeah.
And got my draft notice, and that's when I had to sign up so I could pick what I wanted.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I heard from a lot of those guys in that time is if you got draft notice, then you better go sign up and get what you wanted.
You carried a rifle. There's no questions about that.
Yeah, one of my uncles was in Vietnam, and he said the same thing. He went and signed up for the Air Force because he thought it was going to be easy, but he ended up being a helicopter mechanic and was a door gunner for a while in Vietnam.
Same.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that wasn't a primary duty, but that was one of the.
They needed bodies.
bonuses.
They were going to put you in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what got you interested in working for the fire service?
Well, I was coming. We lived in Midlothian at the time. I was working at a facility outside of town. They transferred down from Fort Worth, and I got to go home for dinner, and I was on the way back south of town, and a truck come by. The engine, it was a old cabo or Ford. I mean, it was a production fire truck, but they had it rigged up to fight grass fires.
I've got a picture of that truck somebody sent me.
1141, I
Yes,
think,
sir.
was the call sign.
Yep.
And he drove by the intersection. There was only the guy driving it.
Mm-hmm.
So I pulled in behind him and asked him if he needed any help. And he said, hell yeah. I said, well, I don't know what to do. He said, well, you just get up there and I'll crank it up. And I remember him saying, you put the wet stuff on the red stuff. And I thought that was pretty cool. I can't remember that guy's name now. But anyway, that's what got me started. So,
interesting. That's I don't think a lot of people could say that. They just kind of showed up and followed a fire truck and were like, "Hey, put me to work."
It was a big grass fire. By the time we got organized, the two of us, there was others coming. So
I got you.
It was a field out south of town.
Okay.
Out about where all the elementary school sits now.
Yeah. So when after that point, did you go to the fire department and say, "Hey, I want to be a volunteer," or did that guy just kind of give you a uniform and you expected to show up?
No, well, back then there were no uniforms.
Right. Yeah.
No, I asked him. The guy's name was Lyons.
I've heard that name before.
I can't think of his first name. Anyway, I asked him about. No, I take it back. My mind is
no, that's fine.
I haven't to go back too far. One of the guys that was on the department asked me a day or so later if I'd give it some consideration to be a volunteer.
Right.
And I said, well, I hadn't given it any thought, but I don't see why I wouldn't. Let me ask my wife first, how that goes. And she didn't care. So Gene Makeda was his name.
Yes.
I want to say he may have been an assistant chief.
That sounds about right.
Or maybe he was just, big deal.
Right.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Gene had asked.
Just around 76, 75?
Yeah, about 76.
Okay. Yeah, that kind of makes sense because some of the records that I've seen shows Gene Makeda as the assistant chief around that time.
Yeah.
So when you got on as a volunteer, was there any kind of training that you had to go through, a probationary period or anything, or is just you were on?
It was on the job training.
Gotcha.
They had occasionally had some people come in and, we'd take the engine out and fool around with it, play with it. And,
yeah.
But as far as an organized training program, they didn't have anything.
When I talked to Ray, he was telling me that y'all went down to Teeks quite a bit.
Yeah, now we did do that.
Yeah, I've got a lot of pictures of you guys down at Teeks doing a bunch of the propane tank fires and stuff like that.
They have a huge school down there.
Yeah, it's massive. It's massive.
I didn't go till late in my volunteer career, and I took I forget now what it was. It was more of a organizational class.
Right.
But yeah, they had basic firefighting and all they got a hell of a school.
Yeah. Everything you need's down there. Yeah, for sure. Did you get hired on with anybody else around that time?
No.
It's just you?
I was working full time.
Right.
Well,
I mean, volunteered at that time. Is there anybody
no,
came on with you at the same time?
Just
no, just you. Okay. So when you got, I'll ask about the volunteer time and then the paid time too. So did you ever work a shift as a volunteer?
Mm-mm.
No. So as your first paid shift, what was your first shift like as a paid firefighter?
Well, I kind of knew what to expect.
Right. Yeah. You were already been on for a while.
Oh yeah, I was when I switched over. I was deputy chief,
Oh, okay.
and of the volunteer side. Now I gave all that up
Right.
when I went paid. I was just the new guy on the block.
Gotcha.
And I got all the shit details. I put the flag up. I
Yeah.
swept out the bays.
Yes, sir.
That was. You probably seen pictures of the old fire station.
Yes, sir.
That was.
I was there for a while.
Oh, were you?
Old Station 1 was still
Okay,
there.
before they tore it down.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I spent probably 2 or 3 years there.
Well, see, when I got on there,
Station
that part that was the offices and the dorm and
that was City Hall, correct?
that was City Hall.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And then we had the Bay Area, and Schroed had an office in a hallway between the two buildings.
Yeah.
And like a shoebox in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
I got you. So
no, it was a big thrill. There wasn't that much difference, but wearing a uniform and strutting around.
Yeah, it's a little different.
Stuff didn't stink.
Yeah, yeah. Do you remember what your first call was as a volunteer, other than the grass fire you kind of stole from that guy?
No, I really don't.
Okay.
I really don't. After all that time doing it just kind of faded away, and
right.
It's like the first day of school.
Yeah. You just kind of forget it all.
I remember where I was, who my teacher was, but I don't remember.
Yeah. I got you. Nothing wrong with that. I think a lot of guys would have a hard time, unless it was something super significant, picking their very first call.
Oh yeah.
So in the volunteer times, you got notified by a call by the siren on top of the station?
That was the initial, and that siren's still up there. I don't think it works.
It's actually in our museum now.
Oh, is it?
It still works. So a couple years ago when they moved it to the new station, they hooked it up to a battery and it turned on.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it dimmed the lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was how we got. As a matter of fact, when I got on, the guy that talked me into it, we were standing and there was a gravel lot across the street there one day, and I pulled in, and I saw him in there, and I was asking him, how do you get contacted for fires?
Right.
Somebody call you or what? And about that time, that thing cranked up. We had that, and then we had what we called plectrons.
Yes, sir.
And that was kind of a radio transmitter. The dispatcher would set it off.
Yes, sir.
And all of us had one. And
was it like a pager, or was it like a radio that?
No, it was a big thing. It looked like a DVD player.
Yes, sir.
Maybe a little bit bigger. And the only ones that had a radio, we had radios in the truck and the equipment. And then I think Ray had I know Ray had a radio. Now you could go out and buy them,
right? Yeah,
but not many people did
could afford it. Yeah, I'm sure.
And then we got the little belt alert things. I forget what those were called, but yeah, I remember that thing cranked up the street lights and down.
I'm sure it's pretty big.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. It's. They were wanting to hang it from the roof in the new station where the museum's at, but they didn't plan for it in the plans. So I'm sure hanging that thing from up there, it would probably do some damage to the roof. Probably pull the roof down with it.
It'd have to be reinforced somewhere.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
that thing couldn't be light.
They built a little cart for it to move it around the floor without scratching the floor up and everything. But even with the wheels on it, it's still pretty heavy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Who was on your crew? Who was with you when you volunteered? Like, do you remember a lot of your crew then?
I gave McCaskill some stuff a couple 3 months ago.
I think I've got your old turnout coat.
Probably.
I think so.
But I gave him a picture of a house that we burned. We were all the time burning down the houses.
There's a bunch of y'all
old derelicts, yeah.
Yeah, I've got that. So
and Schroed and me and Dennis Parker, who was the deputy chief.
Yes, sir.
Were sitting in front of the group. Out of that group, there's I'd have to look at the picture. I could probably identify a few of them. Jimmy Budwin, he was paid eventually. I'm trying to visualize that in my mind. And of course, a lot of them came and went.
Right. Yeah.
Some of them, little bitty guy, Norman Pruitt.
I've heard that name before.
We called him the Mighty Midget.
The Mighty Midget.
He got on in Cedar Hill. I remember. I'd have to look at the picture to.
If you ever come back through town, stop by the station on a B shift, or just stop by a station. I've got a bunch of the old pictures hanging up in the station, so you can come through and kind of take a look.
Oh, okay.
And that picture you're talking about is in the hallway where the bunk beds are, kind of by the door going to the bathrooms. So you can take a gander at that if you ever wanted to.
Yeah, it was that one, and there was a big picture that guy took of the old Model T.
Yes, sir.
And there was something else. Oh, it was a portrait type picture of the whole crew back. We had moved into the brick building.
Yes, sir.
The headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was about it. I don't remember. I think that was all.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna kind of move a little. Do you remember your first house fire?
I would have been as a volunteer. Yeah, it was one of the first. My first fatality.
Oh, really?
Was up on. Oh shoot! You know where the Webb people lived? I don't think there's anybody there now. It's a big old white colonial style building
off of
287, and I'm trying to think. That must be.
Is it south of town?
No, it'd be west of town. Like you're going out just before you go down Sharkey Hill. Anyway, there was a little kind of a garage apartment behind that thing, and there was a black guy lived in there, and he must have been smoking or something.
Right.
But they say that the place, and as well as I can remember, it was full of papers and just, I mean, he didn't throw nothing away.
Yeah.
And he didn't get out.
I got you.
We had to go in there and find him. I can't remember his name, but that one would have been one of the first. That was my first fatality.
Yeah.
And I remember that. He had that, what they call the pugilist.
Uh-huh.
When the heat causes your muscles to draw up, it looks like you're fighting.
Yes, sir.
He's stiff as a board. Everybody's scared to pick him up, afraid he's going to break.
All right. Kind of go here. So when you got on as a paid fireman, like you said, you started at the bottom. Did you work your way up to driver and then company officer and then on? What was your favorite rank? What would you say the best rank was?
Rookie.
Being the rookie? Why is that?
You did your job and you didn't have to make any decisions.
I like that.
The higher up the pole you got, the more you had to think, and the more responsibility you had in the authority and whatnot. And things got complicated I remember we had, when we were a transition department, when it was pretty much half and half.
Yes, sir.
And that was a turbulent time too.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the assistant chiefs was a volunteer. And he didn't think he had to do what the rank and file did.
I got you.
And he's a big old boy. We had to almost shove him into the engines, but he was a volunteer. Anyway, me and him got into it, and I called him in my office one day, and I said, David, I said, we've got to understand something here, that you're an officer, more is expected of you than the fireman.
Right.
Just
right.
Blank fireman.
Yes, sir.
He said, I don't care. You show me the SOPs where I got to do all this stuff. I said, I'm not going to show you shit. I said, you going to do it or you going to get off the department? And he just didn't. He showed his rank pretty flashy,
right?
But he didn't want to do that extra mile.
Gotcha.
that we all had to do.
Yeah,
the higher
absolutely.
up you go, the more you have to shine in front of everybody.
Absolutely.
And he wasn't doing it, so he quit after that. About I don't know, it was several months, but he didn't last long.
I got you.
But yeah, a rookie. I mean, that you knew what you were getting ready to have to do.
Right.
Work your tail off, but you did it.
Yeah.
You know, there was a pleasure there of doing it.
I got you.
The higher up you go, the less firefighting you did, the more direction you did, the more decisions you had, the more people you pissed off.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, because I think most guys would probably say like, oh, being an engineer would be the easiest or the best, and being a captain would be the best. But I like your take on it. You didn't have to make a whole lot of decisions for yourself. You just did what you told. You got things done, and for the most part, you always had something to do.
Oh yeah.
So I like your take on that. It's very different than what you would expect from most people. So going with promotions and rank, what was the promotional system like? How did you get promoted?
Most of it back then was just at the chief's pleasure.
Okay.
Now, as we started getting more and more paid and less volunteers, we started the testing and the whatnot. I'm trying to remember. I think the assistant chiefs or deputy chiefs, we call them, because we had to parallel our rank in organizational charts the same way the police department did.
Okay.
So there wouldn't be any conflict there.
Yeah.
I think at that point, Schroet pretty much appointed who he wanted in those positions. I mean, they were qualified.
Right. Yeah.
I always like to think I was probably the least qualified, but he would appoint his chiefs, and then he could dismiss them at his pleasure as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But the captains, lieutenants, the company grade officers it was all a tested position.
Okay. So pretty much your company officers and above, they tested for.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then like drivers was kind of like, hey, we think you'd be a good driver.
That was sort of an appointed position too.
Mm-hmm.
They took the qualifications of the guys and kind of made a judgment call.
Right.
And then there was a transition period. They had to, take the trucks out or whatever it is they're going to be driving. Back then, the biggest thing we had was an engine.
Right.
We didn't have that monster truck.
Yeah.
And when I retired, we didn't have the truck, so I don't know how all that works now.
Right. Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Yeah. If you get up past the captain's position, it was pretty much appointed.
I got you.
But from lieutenant through captain, that was a tested position.
So was lieutenant on the engine and captain was like a kind of like a shift supervisor, battalion chief kind of thing? Okay.
Each station, as I remember, of course, we had 3 stations, still have 3 stations.
Yes, sir.
Each station has a lieutenant, and they're generally on the engine officer, and then a captain, which is the shift commander.
Okay.
Now, don't you have battalion chiefs?
Yeah, so they got rid of the lieutenant's position. They have all captains and then the battalion chief for each shift.
Okay.
And we have the chief positions above that. So
sort of the same thing, you just call it.
Yeah, just kind of consolidated. I kind of wish they would have brought back the lieutenant position, put the lieutenant on the engine and the captain on the truck. But they would have had to have changed everybody else, all the other captains, or grandfathered in, done something like that to kind of make it. It would have been a lot of confusion. But
big departments, that's generally how their rank falls. So the lieutenant's on the engine and the trucks. The station commander is usually a captain, and he's on the truck.
Right. Yeah.
It's just him and the driver on that truck.
Yeah. Yeah, we're hopefully going to be moving to putting 3 guys on the truck here soon. So it's staffed now with a captain and a driver, and if we have the staffing, we'll throw a third guy on there. But
you're not going to do much with just 2 people.
No, you're not.
And the captain's going to be busy doing his thing, and the driver, he's going to be doing his job as an engineer. So that who's pulling hose?
Yeah. Well, especially on the truck, because Station 1, we have the truck, the engine, the medic, and the battalion coming out of there. So if we get bumped out to a fire, then if the truck shows up, you've got 2 guys. You can assign them to primary search, which we don't do a lot of ventilation anyway. So, but traditional trucks are 4-man. 2 guys come off as the inside crew, and 2 guys come off as the outside vent crew. So, but it's a work in progress, and nothing happens in the fire service. Nothing happens fast in the fire service is what I'm trying to say.
No.
So, all right. When y'all how often did y'all do training back then? Like,
we had, when I got on, I think we had 2 meetings a month on Monday night, something like that.
Yes, sir.
And that got changed to once a month. And that got to the point where it's pretty mandatory.
And that was for everybody?
Everybody.
Okay.
Everybody trained.
Yeah.
And I was training officer at that time. And boy, that was a hell of a job I had. Because, the paid guys had to have a certain amount of training, just like y'all do
right,
now.
Yeah.
And the volunteers just kind of latched on to whatever they were doing, and they moaned and groaned. Well, I don't want to do that anyway. We're not there to do it.
It's kind of the same thing, even with paid guys.
No, but it was about probably a 2-hour meeting. What little business we had, and then the rest of it was spent training. And it was tough because I was trying to accommodate 2 different segments.
Right.
Trying to get everybody qualified, and to stay qualified, you had to have so many hose hours, so many this, that, and the other ventilation, And somehow or another we got through it, but it was tough.
So at that time, were the volunteers held to? So like now, if you're a volunteer, you have to adhere to the state fire marshals. Like they have their own training regimen.
Yes.
It's not the same as the paid guys, but at
they're
that time,
they're under a different organization.
Right.
I think it's still that way.
It is. Yeah. I used to volunteer with Joshua for a little while. I just recently quit doing that, but my paid hours went towards that, but at the same time, there was some small differences that you had to do, for each one, but you have a certain set amount of hours you have to get a year.
Yes.
To uphold your.
And I had to keep those records.
Yeah.
They'd come down there every now and then and let me see your books.
Yep.
So
at that time, did the volunteers have a requirement of how many hours they had to have?
No, we encouraged them to, obviously to come to the fires as much as they could, and same with the meetings. But they weren't penalized if they
didn't show up.
Didn't get the required hours and ladders or something like that. There was nobody to punish them.
Yeah. So at that time, you kind of brought it up, so we'll go into it. At that time, when you did get a fire, how many people did you get on scene typically, and how many engines?
As far as
like a
all
typical house fire.
Well, if it was all volunteers, whoever showed up.
Right. Well,
if we had paid people there, see, when I started out, there was 2 of us on shift.
Okay.
And that was mainly for the ambulance.
Yeah.
And then if we had a structure fire, we jumped on the engine, got it out on the apron, and waited
for volunteers
to get a crew. And then as time went by, we started hiring, or Schroeder started hiring more and more people, and that put the first out engine most of the time out with a totally paid crew.
Yeah.
And that was another thorn in the side because the volunteers bitch, well, you guys take all the fires, we don't get nothing.
Yeah.
So, that transition period.
It builds that animosity.
Yes, it really does.
Yeah.
And we were told that was going to happen.
Right.
And it did.
Yeah.
But it magnified from just the two of us waiting
Right.
up to having 4 people, I think is what he made. I think there were 5 people assigned to a shift, but he allowed, one guy to be off
Right,
at all times. And that was an engine crew, 4 people, the driver, the officer, and then the 2 tailboard people. And if they were out on an ambulance call, then it was all volunteer.
I got you.
Or it was complicated.
Yeah. So if, let's say you had an ambulance call, how many people got on the ambulance? Was it all 4 of you?
No.
Just 2?
No, just the 2.
The 2 back riders?
Yeah, if we got on scene and it was blood and guts all over the place, and then we put in a call for support.
Okay.
And whoever was at the station then would man the engine or whatever vehicle we told them to bring, which was the engine.
Yeah.
But we weren't going to use it for anything.
Right.
Just getting them there. Just
personnel. Yeah.
If it was a MVC or something, a multiple injury type call, and usually they would tell you on the radio,
right,
multiple injuries, then we'd get some more people coming.
Right, I got you. So your typical house fires, when you were paid, you had the 4-man crew if you had that, but who else was coming? Were you getting Waxahachie, Mansfield?
If we needed mutual aid, or if we come out of the station and all we could see is black smoke,
right,
depending on what part of the city or the county it was in, or the fire district, we would call Cedar Hill or Waxahachie or Mansfield.
I got you.
Venus.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Mm-hmm. Typically, how long did it take for those guys to get there?
Not very long.
No. That's interesting because, I always think about that. You think about Waxahachie, where some of those stations, especially Cedar Hill, Mansfield, like nowadays, man, it takes them a minute to get here. It feels like, but in reality, it's probably
waiting on them until
Yeah.
And that they may be busy,
right?
And we'll get a call back. They can't come, so we just start. I have a couple of times put it off on the dispatcher. I said, just get me somebody en route.
Yeah,
I don't care who it is.
Yeah.
And but you kind of depended on which quadrant of the county we were in or the city as to who we'd call from. We try to get somebody. If it's down at the bottom of Sharkey Hill, we try to get Mansfield coming. I got you. And the next choice after that would have been Venus. Yeah. Or Cedar Hill. But I got you. So why do you? I'm just curious. You said it a few times now. Why do you call it Sharkey Hill? That's what it was always called. It's always been called Sharkey Hill. It's not much of a hill there. Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. But we had a grass fire on that, and I know you probably run out of tape time. No, you're fine. But I was on that same engine that I chased down the road the first time. It was a fire engine, a Class A pumper. Yes, sir. And we'd rigged it, or I say I think Ray was the one that did it, rigged a pump on the back of it and pulled water out of the tank. And used to have a hose up on top. Well, we had a grass fire out there on that hill, whatever you want to call it. I'll call it Sharkey Hill because that's what everybody called it. Yeah. And I tried taking that engine up that hill. It wouldn't go. I get about a third of the way up and it go, and it start to come right back down. That's funny. What were your fire tactics like back then? Were you going interior on some of these house fires, or were you kind of hitting it from the outside? It was a judgment call. Okay. If it was obviously something inside, you had to go in. Right. But if it was, I don't know, a roof or something like that, we'd probably come at it from the outside, and then after somebody went in and made a decision, start sending people in. But I got you. If it was fully involved, nobody went. Right, obviously, yeah. But if there was a bathroom on fire, something like that, or a kitchen fire, somebody, let the beans boil over. Yeah. Well, we went on a couple of those. Yeah. And boy, those are the worst kind. They smell so bad, yes. Yeah, you been on one? Oh, yeah, they stink. It just depended on what on-scene officer thought. I got you. When did y'all get SCBAs? Well, I was just thinking that. Yeah. When I got on, we had 2 I can't even remember. I think they were Scots. We had two.
Yeah.
And there was some verbal combat over who got them.
Right.
Of course, whoever got them, they're the ones that went inside.
Yeah.
But then that was that way for several years. And the trend got to the point where you almost had to have them. And then I think they changed the laws, and you've got to have them now. You don't have a choice.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's part of your bunking. You know, when you come off the truck, you got everything you need.
Absolutely, yeah.
You might not be breathing air, but it's there if you need it.
Right.
And they're a lot lighter than they were back then.
Yeah, I've put one on that was one of those steel tanks, and it's like, man, it's like carrying a whole other person back there.
Yep.
Yeah. Was there any other equipment that came on while you were on that you think kind of changed the game for fighting fire?
Well, the hydraulic tools, the jaws. Let's see, I'm trying to remember. I think the worst thing they ever did was put computers on the engines.
I think a lot of people still agree with you.
Oh,
on that
Lord.
one.
You know, something going down the road or at the fire or whatever, computer goes out, you're dead in the water.
Yeah.
You know, can you imagine trying to stop that big beast with no way to do it?
Yeah.
But anyway, the equipment is more in tune to the safety of the individual. Back then we had canvas. I don't remember. We had rubber hip boots, but the bunker coats were canvas.
Yes, sir.
And I mean they worked, but
yeah,
they wasn't the Nomex and the whatever they've got now. I imagine Nomex is no longer.
No, Nomex is still around. We still wear Nomexes for, like our Nomex pants. Pants are Nomex, but we have like pullovers or like little button ups that are Nomex. We wear those in the winter, and in the summer it's just the cotton t-shirts.
But the policies, the organization, it's not. You don't depend on obviously the volunteers. Now you've got a roster that you can call on. Of course, that can get kind of hairy if somebody's sick. You were out the other day, you said, so somebody had to cover your.
Right.
And there's usually somebody that's wanting the overtime.
Oh, yeah.
I never liked overtime. I worked a couple of double shifts back to back. They could about kill me. And I wasn't an old man like I am now.
Yeah.
I'd work a half a shift over. But, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever the time change was, I was ready to go to the house.
Yeah. Yep. So we'll move on to a kind of another part of it. Did you have any mentors while you were coming up? Anybody you looked up to?
Oh,
whether they were in Midlothian or outside of Midlothian?
Yeah, the guy that really got me interested, I mentioned Dallas a minute ago. He was a station captain at 11.
Okay.
11 station. And but it was a busy station. They had an engine, a truck, and an ambulance. And of course, he was the captain, so he rode the truck. He had his driver, and I think if there was people available, he had one more guy on the truck. Everybody else was assigned to the engine and the meat wagon. Of course, the ambulance in Dallas, that's your assignment. You don't move that stuff around.
Right.
And some of them guys, or they used to, they'd get on that ambulance and they wouldn't get off of it for years.
Yeah. It's still that way sometimes.
I joined the fire department, not the ambulance corps. But I lost my train of thought now.
Yeah, you were talking about the captain at Station 11 who was your mentor?
Oh, yeah, mentor. Yeah. Captain Smith. He went to the same church I did, and he was always giving me a hard time about being a volunteer and all that. And he was my mentor. I tried to get on Dallas, and they wouldn't have me.
Oh, really?
I don't want to get into it, but it was political.
Oh, okay.
This was back in the 60s.
Yeah.
I was 45. No, I was 35. And right on the edge of the limit and I was.
Yeah.
And back then that made a difference.
Right.
Because they had a certain, I'm not kicking.
Right, yeah.
You know, one of the black guys over there, I used to call him JJ, big old tall black guy. He was on the ambulance and he liked it.
Yeah.
And he was a hell of a paramedic.
Yeah.
So you had to pass the testing and all that. But
right.
those two guys for sure. You know, a lot of the people that I worked with, my partner on A shift was Robert Cunningham, and he was a cut up, but he was a pain in the rump too.
Yeah,
but he helped me along quite
That's
a bit.
good. It's good.
And others that have come and gone.
Yeah,
you look up to all of them. There's a couple of guys that were older that relocated.
Yes, sir.
And I was sorry to see them leave because we lost good hands.
Yeah. You kind of have to take a little something from everybody you work with.
Oh yeah.
Build yourself.
That's unique, I think, to what we do for a living, or what I did and what you're doing.
Yeah.
Is you don't have a choice. You get along with your partner.
Right.
He got your back.
Yeah.
And you got his.
Exactly.
Whoever's going to drag you out, you better be on good terms with.
Yeah. Right.
So,
yeah.
And I just, it makes it a lot easier to live together for 24 hours.
Yes, sir. For sure. Did you mentor anyone?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
If I did, I'm not sure. I think old Kevin Lucia, he was on our shift for a while. He came on after I was on the paid side. As a matter of fact, I think his number is 13. So he would have been the second guy after me.
Yes, sir.
It was hard. He's the only one that really, of all the people that I worked with, has kind of kept up with me.
Yeah.
He called me the other day about you.
Yes, sir. I emailed him to ask if I could, if he could get in touch with you.
I said, of course, not a problem.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I did. I hope I was a positive one.
Yeah. Well, you sound like you were. You sound like you were a good dude, a good guy to be on shift with. Yeah, for sure. Did you learn anything from the newer generations as you moved up in rank? Did you learn anything from the newer generations that kind of teach you something, or?
I tried to.
Yeah.
Now that was probably one of my big failures, if you will. As I was kind of dyed in the wool what I was.
Right.
That ruffles some feathers sometimes.
I think it's really hard once you get set in your ways to make changes.
Well, the changes sometimes have to come from the top down.
Right.
And like that incident with that volunteer lieutenant, I tried to handle it in a peaceful, professional way.
Right.
But he got ruffled.
Yeah.
And the more he got ruffled, well, then I started getting a little hot under the collar. And it finally came down to, I'm going to do what I say or hit the door.
Right.
Yeah, that's not the way to.
Right.
No, that won't work.
But as I think it's, I've been in the same situation when I was in the Marine Corps and then in the fire service too, like where you're trying to have a civil conversation with somebody and they're escalating it, and it's hard not to let that get under your skin.
Well, the thing is with both the military and the fire service, you get up in the rank structure, you're dealing with situations that don't require debate.
Right.
You tell somebody to do something, they better do it.
Right.
And not sit there and argue with you about it. Your first sergeant or whatever tells you to grab a rifle and advance 10 yards.
Yeah.
You do it, and you do it for a reason.
Yeah.
He didn't ask you to do it just
willy nilly. Yeah.
So you don't debate it.
Right.
You do it. Well, I used to see a lot of debate, even on the fire ground, and I didn't think that was the right place to do it.
Right.
You got the time. Somebody's life could be involved. And,
Exactly.
I never wanted to hurt anybody. But if I told them to do something, I expected them to do it.
Expected it to get done. Yeah. Was there anything that changed, like a tactic or a policy or anything that changed while you were on your paid side that everybody hated and just couldn't get behind?
Andrew, I'm sure there was, but I can't
remember. That's fine.
If it was anything at all, it was administrative.
Yeah.
I guess when I first got on, we were having to type our reports,
right,
our incident reports, and that changed. And they started doing the computers. Which was a big help. But I know on those incident reports, they had to be letter perfect.
Right.
Schroeder would kick them back.
Yeah.
And that always aggravated us.
Yeah.
We're only human.
Yeah.
I'm not real good at spelling.
Me neither.
But Schroeder, man,
it had to be spot on.
If your T's weren't dotted and your I's crossed, you got it back and you had to do it all over again.
Wow. Yeah. I can see how that could get real annoying.
And that's the only thing that comes to mind. I'm sure there were more things that were much more important.
Yeah, for sure. What were the big changes to the city that happened while you were working? Like any big things that came to the city, or like roads that changed, or anything like that?
Constant changes. Like I said, when we moved to town back in, I think we moved down here in 1975. The population was 2,500.
Yeah.
There were two blinking red lights.
Yeah.
One at Main Street and the other one down there at, what is that, Avenue B or C or 9th Street, I mean.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was it. The cement plant, they had two of them. The steel plant. The roads were
2-lane blacktops.
You come down the road in that engine and hit somebody. Somebody had to get off the road to get by. And of course the school system has gone from. I'd have to count them, probably 2 elementary schools and a high school, to what do you got? 3 junior high schools now, 2 high schools, and I don't know how many elementary schools.
Yeah, they're building another one too. Yeah. So they're growing.
And I'm getting the word that there may be another junior high in the mix.
Yeah.
So, that's progress.
Right. Yeah.
The city grows.
It's going to happen.
And the fire department grew with it.
Right.
But it was always behind the curve.
Yeah. And I think it constantly feels like that. You're always trying to play catch up. So we're trying to build Station 4 right now, and it just seems like, one hiccup after another kind of thing. Yeah. So, but
it's a constant battle.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes the chiefs, Schroeder, obviously, and McCaskill,
right.
So much of their time is spent on that administrative BS.
Yeah.
And that's a necessary evil.
Yeah, it is.
That comes with the badge.
Yeah.
I often wonder, we had a tire fire. I don't know if you've ever heard about that, where there's that farm with the cells on it, the batteries.
Oh yeah.
There was at one point out there where they built their shop. That was the shredder, and they would have tires. They'd come in and they'd shred them up.
Over at
millions of tires.
It was a Chaparral at the time.
Well, it was across the street from Chaparral.
Okay,
it wasn't there. They wasn't there. They may have owned it, but these were not connected.
I know what fire you're talking about. Yeah,
but there was a lot of stuff that was buried out there, and it somehow or another. I think they said the rust, the oxidation was was the cause of the heat that eventually broke through.
Right.
These people made a mistake, and they thought if they could dig it out, well, it would put it out. Well, they just made it work. Anyway,
Yeah.
That grabbed everybody by the short hair on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you were still on the engine, there was only one station, right? Just the one in downtown.
Mm-hmm.
What rank were you when Station 2 came online? Were you already?
I think I was the deputy chief.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have any signature meals that you cooked? Did you do a lot of cooking when you were working?
Yeah, we cooked.
What was?
Yeah. Oh, let's see. Chicken. What the hell?
What is that?
It's you bake your chicken.
Uh-huh.
You cover it with cream cheese, and you make a salsa out of whatever you want to put in it. Just green peppers and tomatoes and onions, and you cover it with that. And that's not what it's called, but Jeff Godfrey's the one who started calling it that. Chicken, what the hell? And then I had one that I cooked. It's called Poor Man's Pork Chops.
Okay.
That's just you put the pork chops in and you pile all the stuff on top of it and boil it.
Okay.
It was quick, easy.
Yeah.
I know we ate a lot of takeout.
Okay.
You know, whatever we could.
Was there a grocery store in town?
Yeah, right behind that old station. At one time, there was a grocery store back there, David's.
Okay.
And we'd go there and buy. As a matter of fact, we were having hamburger stuff, which is ground up hamburger. You crumble it up and fry it, and then you add ranch style beans, brown sugar, onions if you like them, and you stir it all up. And way to eat it with a fork, but of course you got bread and butter that you sop stuff up with.
Yeah.
Anyway, I sent him to the store, and you're not interested in this, I know, but I sent Kevin to the store to buy the stuff, and I told him what to get, and he come back with this little old bitty package of hamburger made. And I think it was we were going to bake some potatoes, and he come back with two little yellow tomatoes or potatoes, and wouldn't have fed one person.
Yeah,
and nothing for what we were getting ready to cook. It's just me and him.
Yeah.
You might ask him about that. I guess that was probably it. We ate a lot of just plain stuff.
Yeah, just regular.
We had a barbecue, and we'd buy steaks every now and then.
Yeah.
The problem with anything is you fix it. You might be ready to shove it in their mouth, and the whistle
goes off. Yeah.
And then
we say the same thing about when we have steaks. Every time you try to have steaks, you're always going to catch a call.
Yeah, and there it goes.
Absolutely. Were you in any like specialty groups or teams? Did they have that back then, like the association or like a task force team?
Well, we got the Firefighter Association, which I think is still in force.
Yeah, it's still there.
We went, several of us, and just those that wanted to hazmat school.
Okay, yeah.
And we all got certified in that. But that's such a specialty thing. We never did any more training out of it.
Yeah.
And by the end of 6 months, everybody lost what little training they had.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that really comes to mind, other than your EMT stuff, and that's all specialty.
Right. All right. Kind of talking about station life here. What were some of the best pranks that you saw? Were there any good pranks that went on?
Not that I remember.
No, not really.
I'm sure there were.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything.
Okay. What were some of your best memories around the station?
Oh, just being there.
Yeah.
I remember I'd go out and look at the equipment and just marvel at the fact that I was there.
Yeah. Yeah. Did y'all do anything like on your downtime, did y'all play like cards or board games or anything like that?
I think we had some there.
Yeah.
Schroed didn't like to see that.
I got you.
When he walked through, me and Robert Cunningham, who was my first, he didn't have officers, but he was shift leader.
Yeah.
It's just me and him. We'd eat our noon meal, and then we'd go back, and it's kind of hard to describe. Our bedroom was also the rec area. We had our TV set there.
Yeah.
We'd go back plus a couple of recliners, and we'd go back and kick back and take a little nap.
Right.
We were right there. We could hear everything.
Yeah.
You don't never really go to sleep in that deep sleep.
Yeah.
And Schroed walked in one day and saw us, and he woke us up. He just flat said, "I don't like to see that.
Yeah.
You go read your Bible or something, but don't go to sleep."
Yeah.
Public walk in and see that, they'd have a conniption fit, which was BS.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I got you. Do you have any calls, whether they're funny or whether they're not so funny calls that you remember that stand out to you?
One was a grass fire. They had been called out. The station had been called out earlier on one, and I'm trying to remember where it was at. It was over south of the city, kind of where I fought that first fire.
Uh-huh.
And they were pretty well tied up over there. And then we got another call back off of, it was back behind the cement plant.
Okay.
It's not Martin Muirhead now, I think is what they're called. Anyway, it was a big grass fire back there.
Yeah.
And it was real hard to get in there because there wasn't any roads. There were some trails.
Yeah.
But so me and another guy took off in the brush truck
Uh-huh.
to that one.
Yeah.
And just smoke boiling.
Yeah.
And we got out there, and Schroeder called us up after a few minutes, and we were chasing this thing. It was just kicking our butt.
Yeah.
And he said, "How's it going?" I said, "Chief, this thing's kicking our ass on the radio."
Yeah.
And I'm surprised I didn't get a ride up on that one.
Yeah.
But as I remember, he never said anything. Some of the guys said they heard it and about fell out of the truck. But boy, these, they hold 500-600 gallons of water.
Yeah, some of them, depending.
This was one of the older ones, so it wasn't much.
Yeah.
And, we was trying to get to the head, and there was no way.
Yeah, just wouldn't
we'd gain 2 feet, and it'd
take off 10.
again.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
any other calls that stand out to you?
oh, there's quite a few wrecks.
Yeah. If you don't want to talk about it.
No. I'm just trying to remember. I mean, I didn't. So many of the stuff that I was on is come and gone.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember one wreck out by Ventura Lake. It was a truck, and it was carrying some kind of acid. I can't remember now what it was.
Uh-huh.
And it rolled over on its side, and the cab was upside down, and it was down there in that ditch.
Uh-huh.
And the driver was still in there. He was conscious, talking, and me and another guy went down there, and he was still strapped into the seat upside down.
Yeah.
And we had to basically, as I remember, cut him out of that thing, and then we had to do something with the seat because he was wedged in there.
Uh-huh.
And we got him out. And of course, he took him to the hospital, but he was all right.
Yeah.
I remember that one because I was the one that crawled up under that thing to cut him out.
Yeah.
Because I was there, it wasn't a choice thing.
Yeah.
And I remember some of the gore. I guess you don't ever forget that.
Yeah.
Like that first guy I was telling you about, I'll never forget that.
Right.
The rest of them, I remember one of the last fires involving a fatality. We didn't discover it. Somebody went out there the next day and was kicking around in there and came across.
Is that the one that was behind the door, I think?
He wasn't behind the door, but he was back in the back room and everything in there. He was over in the corner.
Yeah.
I think he was on a bed or something.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to shovel all the stuff out to find him.
Right. Yeah.
Well, they found him. Whoops.
You're right.
I always felt bad about that.
Yeah.
You know,
For sure.
like
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So we'll kind of get to a point where we're kind of going to wrap up here. If you could go back and talk to your younger self about getting hired on or about the job, what are some things you would tell yourself?
Oh, I guess try harder. To be a little bit better than I was.
Yeah.
If I was any good at all. And I would have never thought that I'd advanced like I did.
Yeah.
So I must have been doing something right.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't regret any of it.
That's good.
Toward the end, I got kind of tired of it.
Right. Yeah.
It didn't take me long to acclimatize myself to the way normal people live.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I was always proud to say, when somebody asked me what I did, that I'm a fireman.
Yeah.
And I'm still that way.
Right.
I'm glad I did it. God's will put me there in Midlothian. He didn't want me in Dallas.
Yeah.
And at the time, that was a real disappointment. But over time, again, I recognized that I was where I was supposed to be.
That's good.
So, and it grew. I hope I had something to do with that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
From all volunteer to all paid with shiny new equipment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look at us now, right?
Yeah.
We're moving on up. What was the hardest thing about being a fireman?
The time away from the family.
Yeah.
You miss birthdays, you miss holidays.
Yeah.
Back then, of course, so many places now, they work 48 and off 48, and that would have killed me.
Yeah.
Because you never slept well. I'm talking to the choir here.
Yeah.
You might go to sleep, but each little move or sound that you hear, oh, hey, here it comes.
Yeah.
And I hated getting up in the middle of the night.
Right.
My worst days were weekends and holidays.
Yeah.
I guess that would be it.
Yeah. Like you said, every little sound kind of makes you.
Yeah, you jump.
And,
is the bell getting ready to ring?
Yeah.
Somebody get ready to dump on us? Or
Yeah.
what?
So I find personally myself when I'm kind of just moseying around, or if I'm at the house or something, or even at the station, you're on that heightened alert. And a lot of times, one of our tones sounds eerily similar to an 18-wheeler driving by, the way it starts out. So you hear it, you kind of start looking around and you're doing all that. So I definitely understand that. All right. So what do you think some of the most important characteristics are for a good fireman to have?
Oh, I think, there's always the poster sayings for that,
Yeah.
But I think in our profession, you've got to have a love of humanity.
Yeah.
No matter who they are.
Right.
No matter what they do, what color they are, anything.
Right.
And it's something that you have to appreciate the situation they're in, but you also have to appreciate their stupidity.
Right.
Because that's giving you employment.
Right. Yeah.
But I think the fact that we're there to help people and we don't hunt and peck.
Yeah.
We answer the call no matter what.
Right. Doesn't matter what the call is. You got to go.
You go.
Yep.
You go.
Absolutely.
9 times out of 10, it's not near as bad as you think it's going to be.
Right.
But you don't know that till you get there.
Yeah. And when it is that bad, that's why you're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when you're on the horn getting more people coming.
Yeah. I need help.
Chief, get your ass up there.
All right. What advice would you give someone in a leadership role in the fire service?
Always consider the condition of the firefighters.
Yeah.
I think over the years that's become pretty standard. but they've got limits, and you have to recognize that those limits are going to be different in different people. You send them into a structure fire and they're working their buns off on a 30-minute tank that they're getting 10, 15 minutes air out of. Let them sit down and take a breath.
Yeah.
While they're swapping out their tanks.
Yeah.
I think we expect, or I tried not to do this. I'm sure I failed at times. I try to remember the limitations of the people that is human.
Yeah.
It's not because of their abilities or their training or anything. It's because they're humans.
Right.
And I think sometimes people think we're supermen, and we're not.
Are y'all ready? I need a minute.
Just got to remember that.
Yeah. What do you miss most about being a Midlothian firefighter or just being a fireman, period?
Oh, I think the camaraderie. You know, you're dealing with people you live with.
Yeah.
Probably more in that active period of time than you're with your family.
Right.
And that's one of the things you sacrifice and give up is that family activity.
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the big issues.
Gotcha. Well, Chief, we've hit an hour and 6 minutes.
Well, you guessed it pretty close.
Yeah. I appreciate the time. I appreciate you coming out and meeting me.
I'm sorry it had to be here.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine.
We come back to town occasionally, but, you know, that's a 2.5 hour trip.
Yeah.
And